Ladies, what is your he is probably crazy red flag? He still lives with my parents 10 years after I divorced him. Repost. Once I started talking to this new guy. I sent him a text saying I was going to go home and change and get my car and I would be over. And he flipped out saying OMG if it's such a chore then don't come out, followed by you're probably stalling to FCK your ex and then some other statements. Side note. We have been talking a week and never once have any of these problems arisen. So. Yeah. Red flag that he is probably crazy. Edit. Spelling edit. I didn't have my car because my cousin was driving and the rest of the next hour or so was him sending me screenshots of past conversations explaining how I was a liar and said I'd come hang out after I told him that I didn't think we should hang out anymore. For obvious. I'd like to stay alive. Reasons. Close bracket. I usually lurk. But had to come out of hiding to share. I knew this guy. We'll call him Adam. In middle school. But became friends around our freshman year. We had a few classes together and would hang out after school in groups with other mutual friends. Including my boyfriend at the time. One day. Out of the blue. I get a text from Adam. In this text. Adam confesses his love for me. We weren't that close as friends. Never hung out alone. I don't believe I ever gave him a reason to think that I had those kinds of feelings for him. I tell him that while I am flattered, I don't have the same feelings. I try to let him down easy. Adam takes it hard. He avoided me in class and stopped hanging out with our friends. After a month or so, things go back to normal. This is where the red flags come up. I start getting flowers delivered to my house. They're from Adam. After the 4th delivery, I call the florist and ask to stop having flowers sent to me. Then I get envelopes full of torn petals. One day, I come home and there is a box of roses on my bed. When I asked my dad if he brought them in my room for me, my dad tells me he didn't. We check all the doors and windows. And the latch on my window is broken. Adam broke into my house. We called the cops. But with no proof of it really being Adam. Nothing was really done. My older brother takes it into his own hands and threatens Adam. And things cool down for a while. Now 7 years and a restraining order later, I still get flowers and letters sent to my parents' house occasionally. All sent anonymously. But we all know it's Adam. TLDR, you're probably crazy if you're 24 and still crushing on a girl from high school. When guys talk about a future with me on first or second dates. It's happened several times now. I'll casually mention I want to move to Nick one day and they'll make a frown and say, AWH. But I don't want to. Can't we move to X instead? Or talk about how cute our babies would be? When he shows up at your job unannounced and you barely know him. Till that I am not crazy. When he wouldn't let me wear shorts because no one should able to see that but me. Sadly this didn't actually strike me as crazy possessive until after the relationship ended. I was with a bunch of friends at a bar getting drunk and towards the end of the night everyone left except one of their friends I had just met that night. He ordered us another drink and I reluctantly stayed. Then he asked me to come back to his home and I told him no. He asked over and over again and then started saying it's not like I'm going to pay you. He said this over and over and I got the FCK out and left. Edit. I need to mention that he was the only guy at the bar wearing a salmon colored Izod shirt. Guys who want to have sex without a condom during a casual hookup. I'll pull out. Or I don't have diseases. I swear. Are not convincing. I'm sorry. But you do realize that's how people get pregnant and STDs. Right? Guys who want to have sex without a condom make me instantly note the FCK out of there. Edit. I know. There are some circumstances where not wanting to wear a condom is normal. I mean during casual hookups. If he's super uncomfortable with me having male friends. I had an ex break up with Nay because I have a male friend a side hug. He begged for me back the next day but I ran like the wind. I'm a nice guy. Girls just want to date douchebags. Apostrophe. If a guy constantly talks other women or his ex-girlfriends, I get concerned. If a guy refers to all of his exes as bitches, sluts, or whores, I'm out. I think a red flag is spending large amounts of money on drugs. It's one thing to smoke every once in a while. But if he needs to borrow money or hit up friends to pitch in to buy something like shrooms, then get out of there. Save yourself a lot of pain and heartache. If he wakes up in the morning and starts drinking, then continues to drink all day, run far away and don't turn back. Living with an alcoholic is the worst f***ing nightmare that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. When he claims to have PTSD from Afghanistan, has nightmares so real he chokes you in his sleep, is violently racist towards anyone vaguely Middle Eastern looking, yet it turns out he never made it past week 2 of basic training. I feel sorry for my sister-in-law. If he gets into the school system and spends countless hours looking through student pictures to find your name just so he can add you on Skype, then he's probably crazy. Trust me. Oh, and if he finds your Facebook, becomes friends with your friends to get your phone number and messages you every few hours, you can bet he's crazy. They were 2 different people. A red flag for me is a guy who doesn't know how to set limits with his family. Someone who doesn't know how to speak up for himself against his family, letting his mom control his life, and trying to live in the footsteps of his father instead of paving his own road. Edit. Wasn't expecting such a big response. What I meant by living in the footstep is doing everything just like his daddy. Following his father blindly, trying to live just like him. Has no mind of his own because he is a big daddy's boy. Scared of speaking up to him and doing something he might love because his dad would be disappointed. Edit. I am not telling anyone to turn their back on their family. I know some of you have awesome dads with great careers. I am talking about men who do what their dad does and they have absolutely no interest in what they are doing. Just because your dad wants you to be a doctor, you don't have to. Do what makes you happy. This subject is definitely touchy. I come from a big family and we are close also. But I have set up boundaries with them. A man is crazy to me if he allows his mother to step all over his wife and puts her opinion before his wife. Our parents are human. And not always right. You have to live your life, you not them. Edit. For the guys PMing me cussing me out, you're obviously mama boys who can't handle the truth. Oh, and thanks for the DCK pics, guys. This thread makes me feel great. I don't feel near as pathetic now. Complimenting too much. I understand if you want to compliment me, but every other sentence and I start to think, maybe this guy's a little weird and it just gets worse the longer it goes on. I was dating a guy who may fit this criteria. We'll call him Romero because that's his name. We dated in HS briefly. He moved to TX for 3 years. He moves back to NJ. For me. He says this. Once he moves to NJ, on the first day of his arrival, he asks me for a place to stay. I barely knew the guy anymore. He stays a week. I am still living at my mom's. He won't leave. We, my entire family, politely ask him. He says it is because he is part of our family now. He sits down for dinner with us even when we ask him not to. He sleeps in my bed when I sleep out. I sleep at my current boyfriend's house every night. He just won't leave. I break and tell him if he doesn't leave, I'm calling the cops. By this point in time, my sister, 9 years old, has called me 3 times complaining that he walks around the house naked. My brother tells me that he spends hours in my room smelling my shit. Not literally. You get it. He agrees to leave. After professing how he wants to touch my body and how he loves me so. Okay. Whatever. He's gone at least. Nope. I come home that night from a friend's house and he is there. Nobody invited him in. No one even knew he was in the house. He is eating food from the fridge and tells me he is part of our family now and you can't kick family out of the house. It's Christmas morning. Around 5 AM. So my family is waking up. He asks where his presents are. I kick him out again. Forcefully. Like. Push out the door. Later that evening, I go over to my father's house. My dad was out of town, but keeps his keys in the mailbox for me. He isn't there. Sitting on the couch watching TV. Like nothing is wrong. I tell him he broke into my dad's house and that I'm going to call the police. He threatens suicide. He follows me to TN for a music festival. And after that, I don't hear from him. I don't know where he lives now. Eek. Has a child that he doesn't see. Edit. Yes. There are exceptions. On first glance it's a red flag though. My friend is dating a guy, both in their 40s, does not invite her over to his house and she has never been in his car. He always goes to her house or meets him at the restaurant. They only get together once a week. He says that he is really busy. To me, this is a red flag, married or girlfriend. There's a fine line between a crush and overdoing it. I'm flattered if you have a thing for me. But there's a right and wrong way to go about it. I've got two notably weird examples. I met this one guy in high school while I was out with my friends. He added all of us on Facebook. And didn't say anything to any of us for about a year or so. Then one night, my friend Valerie got a chat message from him saying, "Hey Vince. What's going on?" She replied to tell him he'd clicked on her name instead. He replied, "Oh. Sorry about that. I was trying to do that quick. While I have you here, though, how's X and Dynasty doing? Is she doing well? Is she seeing anybody right now?" Valerie advised that maybe he should talk to me. He then sent me a message saying, "I don't mean to be so forward, but you're the most amazing, most stunning girl I've ever seen. And your glasses are so damn sexy." I brushed it off with a quick thanks, because I wasn't interested. A few months later, he went through and liked a bunch of my photos, and sent me another message. "You just get cuter and cuter every time I see you." Double quote. There was also another guy who I had been loose friends with in middle school and reconnected with in high school. He had a crush on me, but I didn't reciprocate the feelings and started dating another guy a few months after my friend and I reconnected. He was hysteric, screaming at me about what a BTCH I am and what a piece of trash the guy is. He then called me at 3 AM on a school night to tell me that I'm wasting my time and nobody would ever love me like he loves me, and that the guy I was seeing should watch his back. He never did anything more than call me a few more times. And he stopped when I told him I'd get the cops involved for harassment if he called me one more time to vaguely threaten me. TLDR, it's nice to have feelings for someone, but think it through first before you act on them. Edit. Spelling. Edit number 2. Whoa. I didn't expect so much feedback. I'll be the first to admit that the second guy is way worse than the first. But I think I should elaborate on the first one. The story was getting a little long, so I tried to end it. But I should have clarified a bit more. The first one was off-putting because I met him once for about 20 minutes. And a year later, all that happened. I guess it was just weird to me that he waited so long and then came at me with guns blazing. Also, liking somebody's photos isn't weird, unless you're liking almost every photo with the person in it that they'd posted since you met them a year ago. Long story short, his messages became more frequent after that, and I eventually told him flat out that I wasn't interested and that we could be friends. And he continued to message me for a few weeks trying to change my mind. I ended up blocking him, because I gave you an answer and I'd like you to respect my decision. Spoke to him once on the phone. He was at a mutual friend's house on holiday. I said hi. "How are you?" He made a high-pitched giggle and handed the phone back to my friend. She gave him my address. She and I exchanged packages in the mail. She was in Germany. I'm in Australia, and he started sending me letters and little gifts. I start getting calls from customs because he is apparently sending me jewelry without paying the right amount of tax on it. I tell them to send it back. On the 1-year anniversary of our phone conversation, he sends me a floral arrangement via Interflora. That's as tall as me with 18 red and white roses. White for my youth and purity. PFFT. Red for blood and 18 because that was my age. He was a lot older. This is when I got the police involved. He continued to send me messages that he loved me, forgave me for involving police, that he didn't mind that I had a boyfriend who I was with before I even knew this nutter existed, because my BF would understand that he and I were meant to be together. We were meant to be because we had the same blood type. He followed my favorite band around Europe, getting his photos taken with them in a t-shirt bearing my name along with their song lyrics. He said he knew where I lived and that he was coming to steal me away. Customs called me after intercepting more packages from him. They contained blood. The police blocked him from entry to the country and I didn't think any more about it until about a year later. I was watching Border Patrol and saw him arriving at Sydney Airport and being detained by police before being deported. My heart froze. Talks a lot about the friend zone. Obsessed with his own look. And very concerned about how you feel about the looks of other men. Talks about women in terms of bitches, hoes and or sluts. Overly clingy needy after one date. Or worse. Feels that you owe him all your time after just some texts. Calls all his exes crazy. And my personal favorite. When a man feels that he has me figured out. Or can tell me what type of person I am after one date. Having a hard time formatting this on the phone also. I'm not a native English speaker. So forgive me my typos. Or correct me so I'll learn. Close bracket. A guy who can't admit to ever being wrong about anything. Even little things. If we just started texting and hanging out and he starts calling me babe, honey, sweetheart or anything like that, it'd like weird forced intimacy. And it makes me super uncomfortable. Oh man. This may be a niche one. There's a pretty good list my girlfriends and I have penned on red flag artists a guy is obsessed with. We're usually half joking when we add to it. It's mostly just for fun. Many of these artists are ones we ourselves like. However, we've found that if a guy is obsessed with say, oh man, afraid of the responses he'll get, Bukowski, Woody Allen, Hunter S. Thompson, Kerouac, etc. It's a mild red flag. Like I said, we enjoy these people too. However, we've found over time that certain kinds of guys will be drawn to certain kinds of extreme artistic personalities to make up for a lack of their own. Or to validate bad behavior. Note that this sort of liberal arts guy usually also doesn't have a single female writer poet in his hero canon. The particular guy they are obsessed with seems to change over time. Thompson in the teens, early 20s, etc. To suit their need to rebel via a proxy. It's a weird pattern we're only just starting to notice. Takes everything personally. Say for instance he invites you somewhere last minute and you decline because you're busy. Rather than okay, no worries, rain check. It's why. What are you doing? You're always too busy, you never want to see me, and other such whinny nonsense. Occasionally it can be playful banter, but most of the time it's just annoying. Play it cool guys. So I'm getting a lot of replies along the lines of, but if you're always flaking that's frustrating. I agree. But it was not my point. I'm talking about a guy I might be seeing regularly getting pouty or feigning offense if he invites me somewhere last minute and I already have plans. Him saying you're always too busy is just hyperbole. Dudes, if a girl never makes any effort to see you, she's just not that into you. Sorry. 3 out of 4 conversions with the guy. He's mentioning that his mom abandoned him when he was 6. I suggest therapy and he says he's over it. But when I reschedule a date, I get a 3-page email from him about trust and abandonment. Yeah. You're all good. Bro. Edit. Conversations. I was on my phone and didn't see the error. I have never tried to convert anyone to anything. I was in a horribly emotionally abusive relationship for years. And if I could sum it all up into one red flag, it would be: if everybody else thinks he's a f***ing asshole, maybe it's not that they just don't know him like you do. Maybe it's because he's a f***ing asshole. Once I was dating this guy, N, who ended up being abusive. Once we were hanging out with his guy friends in my apartment and one of them went to the bathroom. There was a lull in conversation. And N pulled me to the kitchen freaking out about how I was listening to the dude pee so I could calculate how big his DCK was. And how obviously I was cheating on him. Do you find celebrities hot? Yes. We have no future. That's basically cheating. Bye. Double quote. He was 19. And this was said to me after 2 months of a not official LDR. I was meeting someone for coffee from an online dating site. And I mentioned that he was the first guy I've ever met via an online dating website. He proceeded to ask me how many other dates I had planned for the rest of the day, how many messages I got per week, and how many visitors go to my page. Not a great start to online dating. Oh, this is almost 1/3 of my life story. I was engaged to someone 2 years older than me. I met him at 14. Thought he was perfect. Intermittently visited him until I was 18 and going to college. When he told me if I wanted to be with him I needed to be near him. Moved to his city to go to school. We dated for 2 years, then spent almost a year engaged. Called it off about 6 months after my 21st. When a friend basically slapped some sense into me. In addition to what others have said. He made me feel like I was neglecting him and not being a good girlfriend fiance by going to my college classes or work instead of spending time with him. I lost my scholarship at my university because my grades dropped when I started skipping for him. Even when we lived together, he would complain about not getting enough attention. It was like being engaged to a toddler. Except he was already potty trained. I paid all the bills. And my parents helped me because I couldn't support us. He had a job as a server. But I never saw money. After we broke up I learned he had gambling problems and guys' night was code word for casino. He used his mom to get out of everything. Obligations to volunteer work in a foreign country? Mom buys him a new plane ticket home because he sounds so sad. Joined the Air Force and can't handle boot camp? Mom alters his medical records to make it look like he had trauma from a car accident and was never cleared. He was upset about me wanting 2 years to save up for a wedding and honeymoon. Mom takes me to dinner where she spends 4 hours telling me I don't love her son enough. Followed by an hour of begging me to marry him and give him a child and her grandkids. He was really good at manipulating emotions. He would lie or cheat or steal from me. And when I would get upset he'd make it sound unintentional or as though he was doing it for us. Or blame it on me for not giving enough love, attention, affection, sex, etc. Typical abusive SO excuses. Basically, I was dumb and stupid. But I wouldn't trade those shitty years for anything because they taught me so much about myself and what I want from life. And also what red flags and crazy looks sounds acts. When I would go out with my friends and get a million OMG I miss you, I'm so sad and lonely, I need you back here now texts. And we lived together. I like some show of affection. But damn. That was smothering. Then, when we broke up, he left me a gift that was a painting of him staring at me while I was sleeping. Nope. I had been chatting with a guy a couple of years back. We had set a date to see each other, but a week before I politely cancelled. Before I could even say let's meet up the wheel after. He started screaming over the phone that he had expected me to bail and that he was so disappointed, but he could have known since I was so pretty. My personality must be terrible. He continued saying he saw a future with me but now it was all ruined. After only 2 weeks of knowing this guy, I was pretty shocked and very glad he showed his true colors. That's fast. Big red flag. Texts me what you doing every single hour. None of which I ever reply to. I used to reply, but he would say really weird things and call me baby even though we just met. I told him I had a boyfriend and that I wasn't interested. Every few days he would ask me if I still had a boyfriend. To which I said yes. Eventually I just stopped replying, but I don't know how to block numbers so that he can't text me anymore. He also calls me about 5 times a day. I've asked him to stop. My boyfriend has answered the phone a couple times telling him to FCK off. Yet he still texts me what you doing about once an hour and calls me a few times a day. When a guy goes from 0-60 in less time than it takes for me to make a sandwich. I know it can be exciting to start talking with someone interesting to you. And I don't believe it's necessary to play it cool. But some guys are obsessive in their communication and it's a huge red flag. For instance, texting me, then sending me a message on the dating site where we met, saying, "I just texted you when you know you have the right number." Calling me before the time we said we would chat. Then texting to tell me you called and got my voicemail. Now, I acknowledge some people are eager and even socially awkward. But there are a lot of guys out there who don't seem to understand any concept of boundaries. Don't respect when I say I'm available, etc. Last night, in the course of packing lunch for my children, I received a series of communication from a guy I had just started talking to. Him. "What you doing?" Him. Question mark? Me. "Hi. Making lunch for the kids. I'll text after they're in bed." Him. "Gotcha. Go ahead. Do your thing." Him. "What's for lunch?" Him. "I bet you make those cute little mini sandwiches." Him. Calls. Him. "Sorry. I didn't mean to call you. Got your voicemail but hung up. Unless you're done and ready to talk?" Him. "So where do you want to go when we meet? You seem really sweet and that's a real turn on." Him. "Are you mad that I said turned on? I know we haven't gone on a date yet. But I think we will. I hope so." Double quote. Him. Online dating site message. "Just making sure you are getting my messages. I don't want you to think I am ignoring you. We had agreed to talk at 8:30. It's 7. This goes on for a while as I'm ignoring my phone and getting my kids to bed. Close bracket. 8:25 phone rings. I don't answer because I'm not in the same room as my phone. 8:26 Hey, I tried to call you. 8:27 online message, "Are we still talking tonight?" Double quote. I don't see most of this because I told him I would call at 8:30. So at 8:30 I pick up my phone to call him and it rings. I tell him I was just about to call him and he says, "Oh, we think so much alike." Double quote. TLDR: obsessive communication. Disregarding boundaries. Force teaming. etc. I tried to fix the formatting on my phone and it isn't working. I really do understand paragraphs. Close bracket. I recently met a guy at my work that found me on Facebook. He was cute. So I accepted his request. He started liking all of my old comments with conversations I'd have with guys that might have seemed semi-flirtatious. He messaged me asking me to hang out. And if I didn't reply within 5 minutes, he'd message me saying something like, "WOOOW. Really? Dot." The speed in which I noped the FCK out of that was unreal.